Welcome to Bested Faction.
A podcast about 10th edition Warhammer 40k.
Definitely not ninth. I'm Colin.
And I'm Chuck.
Yep. And we don't know where Bitch is, if we're being honest.
Yep. We lose him a lot. Yeah.
Bitch is supposed to be here, but I am not sure whose turn it was to keep an eye on him. It was not mine.
Not it.
So, before we jump into 10th, we're going to do a little bit of 9th. I don't want to hear about any of your games, Chuck.
All right.
So Chuck went to the Storm of Silence. For those that have been listening to the show a lot of time, it started with a storm is the first episode where I took triple Tesseract Vault to the tournament, but we don't need to talk about that right now. That was not a good experience. Probably my least favorite tournament experience, actually.
Both in game and between games.
Yeah. Well, I kept dropping them, if we're being honest.
Well, taking 3 Tesseract Vaults up a switchback flight of stairs is quite the journey.
Yes, it's true. It's like I only have like 5 models, so do I need a cart? I guess I need a cart because 3 of them are huge. Anyways, Storm is one of the 2 premier events that each year that Bob Kelly at the Gamers Haven does. The other one being Harvester of Souls. Chuck got to go. I did not get to go. But Chuck got to go, and it's a 9th edition tournament, and we are not interested in doing 9th edition battle reports or tournament recaps. So let's just hear the story of going to the tournament from Chuck.
Yeah, so several stages into this. So I guess the first thing to understand is we were on the Friday that I had left for the tournament. My plan was to go to the team tournament in the area in I guess next weekend at this point, right? Or the weekend after that one.
2 weekends from now.
2 weekends from now. So I was bringing my demons list that I was bringing for team play, which is a little bit skewed to remove some of the top contenders from getting their 20 points on us. So I packed that up and I head there. On the way there, I find out that there is a Incredibly Life event happening on the Sunday, and so I won't be there for the whole team tournament. Really not fair to the team to play 3 games and be like, we're almost there, gotta go. So I definitely have to drop from the team, which is always it's a bad feeling, right? You feel like we put together a lot of things, but I can't skip that. So
what if your team captain also was going to go to that and also
right? And so the team sort of melted for a more important event. So
I will talk about this briefly so that Chuck doesn't have to. Many years ago now, 2020, I think, we did an event when we couldn't do Charity Hammer because we couldn't get everybody together. We did an event called Hammer Out Cancer. And that was to generate money for one of the best members of the 40K community ever. And it was to raise money for he and his family because of the ridiculously awful, we'll just call it super awful cancer that he received. And he was given a short amount of time that he was going to make it. And he made it 3 years, I think, roughly.
Yep.
So good job on him. That's wonderful for so many reasons, especially for his son. How old's his son, Chuck?
Is he 4 now?
Okay, yeah. So he probably will remember him, which is great.
Yeah.
And so this was Vincent Price, for those that don't know. Chuck's lifelong best friend and somebody who, when I was a teenager, was incredibly important to me. So we're going to go to his funeral and not go to the team tournament. But what that means is, and by the way, we'll do something special about him at Charity Hammer. I don't know what it is yet, but there'll be something. So what that means is we don't have another 10th edition event.
9th edition event. We have a lot of 10th edition events.
We have a lot of 10th edition events. We don't have any 9th edition events. And so you're at the team tournament, or you're at Storm, and you're like, well, good thing I'm prepping for this team tournament I can't go to.
The other thing I think to myself is my regular practice partner will get let's say weekly games, but really we cancel probably a third of the time or something, is an orc player. So I know, the only thing I'm super sure of on my matrix of who Colin shouldn't put me into in a team situation is he shouldn't put me into orcs. They are too fast and they do too many attacks for his each demon list to stand up to. So, and there are 4 orc players at the tournament. So what are the odds? Of course, I play 2 of the 4, which is, of course, also my 2 losses. other than that, I played some Votan and and I played some Knights. And the army stood up just exactly as I said. If you have mostly 3-up armor saves and you have quite a few bodies, or 3-up demon saves and quite a few bodies, people just can't get through your situation, right? Like you play sort of conservative. Demon secondaries are unbelievably good. And so I just scored lots of points and existed while flamers threatened to do ridiculous amounts of damage. And then I had the incredibly unkillable Bloodthirster who would just show up and create havoc in people's battle plans. Or honestly, just sit in deep strike and threaten them so that people like if I threaten you with it and you're hesitant, I'm like, great, we'll just wait till next turn then. It's fine by me. Like my plan is to stand right here anyway. I think you're muted, Colin.
That was weird. I was going to say the Bloodthirster's all, I'm really scary.
One of the better stories out of it was the Bloodthirster came in and charged into 10 knobs who were full of power claws and big choppas and things. And I went somewhere. I went to some other fight first, right? And so he interrupted onto the Bloodthirster and swung into him. He punched him up a bunch. He managed to take all 8 damage from his wound cap. But then he swung back and killed all the knobs. Rolled hot on the Blood Drinker talisman and got like 5 wounds back. And then used the heal at the end of the turn for the demon army and got the other 3 back and was like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah.
It's just like,
are you glad you spent that 2 CP?
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He doesn't it like damage 3 is really important, and I get like definitely bringing that. But with my list, I just need him to exist as long as possible. So I definitely feel like that was the right build for him.
Okay.
But yeah, into Votan and stuff, I'm like literally just charge in, wrap their stuff, prioritize their close combat units, and then the game is over. Sort of same with the Knights. He was lean towards shooty, and if you're lean towards shooty and somebody comes at you with 30 pink horrors and 20 blues and 16 flamers, you just can't shoot through it. It's too difficult. So
Okay.
I definitely proved that it was exactly what I was doing for the team tournament. Worked and functioned great. I actually think I would have probably formed one if I'd gotten any other matchup than two separate orc players. But so it felt like a great tournament. It also felt great to just like go out there. It's full of people I know that I've been, been going to Bob's events for like 12 years now.
Yeah.
Like it's really exciting just to like, built a lot of relationships, hang out with everybody there. Go out to dinner on Saturday was really fun. Yeah. The weather
Anyone
was
there
also
that was
great.
really surprising that you hadn't seen in a long time?
I guess not like a really long time, but like I really getting to catch up with JT was really great. We've been missing each other as far as what events we went to.
McDowell, yeah.
JT Stegler and I would see each other like all the time. It's just always at the same events, but it was cool to hang out with him too. It just hadn't been a long time. Yeah.
So JT McDowell is confirmed for Charity Hammer. He wasn't able to come last year because he had surgery, I think. So it'll be great to have him down again. I'm not going to let him bring the singlet this time.
To bring what?
The singlet? Did you not see that?
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yeah. His old wrestling outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing.
It certainly was.
All right, so 9th edition.
Yeah.
Done.
I had the same conversation several times over the weekend that I think is really interesting, where people talked about, 9th edition is crumbling a little bit, like things are a little weird. But if you compare it to the end of any other edition, it is in much more healthy, playable state, right? It's not like all Death Stars or, triple tanks. Hello.
When suddenly a cat appears.
Yeah, hi. You got your breakfast already. Yeah.
For those that are on the podcast, the cat's head literally just slowly came into frame. Hello.
She's had her breakfast, so she knows she needs a cuddle.
Okay.
She has a very hard life.
That sounds right.
But it was really nice to have that conversation a couple times, and people just be like, "Yeah, you're right. It's we do want the game to improve. Everybody's excited for 10th, but it doesn't feel like the game's unplayable."
I think that honestly, we could go on with this meta for a while.
Yeah,
it's not perfect. I think that GW really undervalues how good Guard is, because of the way the data looks, which is very skewed by how hard Guard is to play at the less experienced level. I think that Demons winning things forever and never getting really nerfed is strange. But in general, I think, and then like the Marine changes they made that were idiotic. So you've got Iron Hands just wrecking people. And then, of course, the all firstborn Salamanders list wrecking everybody at Tau Tipping. Yeah, so I think the meta is not perfect, but it's never perfect, and there's always things that are too good. And so the fact that we're in a place where they're too good is fine. My main issue with 40K right now is I'm having a really hard time keeping track of all the rules and what everybody does and how armies are built and how it all works and what the nuanced rules edge exceptions are. And I don't want any of that anymore, so I'm excited to flush it all and start with something new that has new edge cases and corner scenarios and weirdnesses.
Right.
Wait till we talk about close combat. So yeah, I'm ready. We've talked before about the fact that we're both really into the new.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I'm addicted to the new, is what I would say. Like I think I have I think I have an obsession for new. So I'm hype. They are releasing faction focuses every day. The rules got leaked, so we'll talk about that. If you want to hear about the rules in detail, check out This Week in 40K for Thursday of this week. We did a special episode where all we did is go through the rules in detail with Billy the lawyer to make sure I caught all the wording things. And we talked about weird things that people aren't noticing. Like, Chuck, I don't know if you probably noticed. But
no, I've read it one time. I've probably noticed nothing.
One of the funniest things that people aren't talking about is if you have the Scout Universal Special Rule, which means that after you know who goes first, you move out into the field, but you have to be 9 inches away from people. By the way, they clarified that if you go first, you do all of your pregame move stuff first, which is the way it always should have worked. So I'm glad that that's that way. But if you have scout move on your unit and you're in a transport, that transport gets scout move as well, Chuck. And that makes me happy because I like dudes in trucks. It does make me wonder if anything will be able to make the Land Raider scout move that can then throw people out to charge, because that would not be okay.
No, because it also says if any unit doesn't have scout, you can't scout move the vehicle.
Sure.
So you can't like throw somebody else in there with them and like bring them along.
Oh, sure. Yeah, true.
So you'd have to have scout and be worth throwing into combat quickly, which is pretty
unlikely. Really unlikely for Marines in particular. Yeah. This is my Land Raider full of infiltrators. Like, what? No. I'm sure that they still just null deploy as normal, which has a new name. And I can't think of what it is for that Universal Special Rule. It has a name now. So maybe it's called infiltration. I think it actually is called infiltration. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk. So we're very excited about 10th. Lots of content between now and then. We're expecting it's roughly a month from right now. A month from yesterday is what a lot of people are anticipating. In the meantime, in a week and a half or so, I'm going to get Star Wars Shatterpoint in the mail. And so I'll have about 2 weeks to obsess over a new Star Wars game. And then it'll be like 10th edition. And I'll be like, whoa. So, you know.
You got your plan. You get your schedule.
What's that? I do have a plan. So I'm gonna obsess over video games for the next 2 weeks, and then Shatterpoint for 2 weeks, and then I'm hoping that 10th edition 40K is my only hobby from there, because my life is best when my only hobby is 40K. What is best in life? Playing and talking about 40K all the time.
I'll be working on the Shoot at 3 Obliterators for the next,
for the launch weekend where you have to put them on the table against me, regardless of how good they are.
It's 9 Obliterators right up front.
Yep. Is it because there's going to be a Scorpius behind them?
No, there won't be. They said that Forge World rules won't be out at launch.
Oh,
so Scorpius.
I'm really fine with that.
Yeah.
I actually think that that's a smart decision.
Yeah. Yeah. You could even wait a while. Like Forge World is complicated.
Well, and they also legend a bunch of stuff. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
The Damacaron's gone.
Mhm.
Which, joke's on me, I have 2 kit bashed ones that now serve no purpose.
I have several kit bashes over the course of my life that eventually turned into other kit bashes. So
Yeah. Maybe I'll just put a Metroid hat on top of one of them and be like, hey, look, it's the new thing with the tentacles.
yeah,
So, yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a launch weekend. I'm going to start playing 40K Friday morning and stop Sunday afternoon sometime. I don't know how much of that content's going to get out to everybody, but we cannot do what we do without a lot of knowledge.
Mhm.
And so I have to start getting the knowledge really quickly so I can do shows like This Week in 40K. And I am committed to that. I'm going to study like crazy. I will watch battle reports. I will play the game. I'm all in on that. And of course, it would not be a launch if Chuck was not at my house.
that's
So
how we do a
hopefully
new
that
edition.
timing works out. What's that?
That's how we do a new edition.
Uh-huh. Except 8th. Yeah.
Well, that was during the sad times.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by talking about the Warhammer 40K rules, which Chuck has not read.
I've read one time.
Okay. General overview. No, yeah. Tell us all about them. No, I'm kidding.
All right.
What was your general thoughts?
I was actually concerned prior to seeing them that there was going to be more change.
Uh-huh.
I love it when they change the game. I don't want it to change to the point where I don't recognize it as the game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know there's lots of people interested in going into, I go, you go, kind of those kinds of major changes. I'm not. I kind of want the bones of the game to stay the same. And so when I read it, I would say pleasantly surprised that there is quite a bit of change. Like obviously, like goodbye psychic phase, that sort of thing, is pretty big. But I felt like playing the game will still feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it would look faster. There's fewer combat fiddly moves. Maybe there's more. We just have to learn what the new fiddling is.
Yep.
But it seems streamlined. But of course, it's a new edition. It is, of course, streamlined so far. Wait till we add all these extra rules, right? So mostly I'm just looking at it kind of hopefully. I mean, like, this looks like fun. I'm ready to do it.
I think that we're going to see a lot when the first codex comes out.
Yeah. Well, the first codex is always this, like, wait, what's in here, right? Like,
yeah. Because they're saying that, like, all of your rules should just be a couple pages.
Yeah.
So then what does your codex do?
Mm-hmm. And this concept that, like, right now you have these rules that govern your army, and you get a codex, you can trade those for the rules that are in the codex. I think that makes it much easier to keep the power level similar, as opposed to being like, okay, well, we've added a bunch of rules, but please don't get significantly stronger, right? Like, I think that what they've built is far more maintainable. So I'm excited for that long term as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that there's 4 pieces of the puzzle for you and I, for the way we play 40K. And there's a 5th one, which is new models are coming out and they're going to be fun to hobby and paint, but that's not what this show's about. There is a new show on the network called The Best Overall Show where they actually do talk about that. It's every other Friday or Thursday. It's every other Thursday. So it wasn't this Thursday. It will be next Thursday. And it is on the podcast feed and it is in YouTube. So check that out. But there's 4 pieces that I see. There's the core rules, which is like the framework of how the whole thing works, right? There's the codex stuff or the index stuff, which is what does your army do and what do your data sheets look like? There's points, right? What do these things actually cost? And then finally, there's the missions. And I think that we've now seen pieces of 3 of those things. We've seen nothing on points as far as I know. Yeah. Even the leaks I've been getting. And there is a GSC leaked point sheet this morning that I'm not going to talk about because I do not think it's real. So I saw that this morning. It really looks Photoshopped to me. We have not seen any other pictures from any other index. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute. But yeah, we've not seen points. So everything that Chuck and I are about to talk to, you need to take with a grain of salt because points.
Yeah.
I also think that we don't actually know a lot about the missions. I think we know rough framework for how they're going to work. I certainly don't feel like I have a grasp of gambits.
No,
Definitely not. And we tried to explain how gambits work, and we got a long comment on our show from this week. We got a long comment on our show. No, you guys are wrong. This is how it works. And I thought, you're probably right, but I'm just going to wait and see rather than going back and reading the Warhammer community article and trying to figure it out. I'm just going to wait and see.
There's so many details in something that's that complicated. Like,
yeah.
So it is easier to see. It's easy to understand when you have the whole thing, for sure.
Yeah. I think, so just talking about the missions for a second, the missions sound incredibly variable. And I suspect that tournaments are going to say, these are the cards for this one, and these are the cards for this one.
One of the articles that they put out in this string of daily articles that have been so much fun to read talked about them putting out a packet that says everyone will play this round 1, this round 2 to give to tournament organizers.
Okay.
To do that for them, right? Like,
Right.
So everybody is playing the same thing every round to kind of keep the tournament having that feel. So it's definitely, and they said that will be day 1. That will come out with the rules. So we'll have immediately sort of what the tournament situation looks like.
Because I'd rather play it that way.
Yeah, they didn't say what the missions would be or any of the detail to that, but they will have that right off the bat.
Well, good. I was worried that on that launch weekend we'd have to play the random version, which I'm down with. Like, I played Maelstrom when I played in that WTC team event.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought adjusted Maelstrom was quite smart and very fun back in 8th edition.
Yeah.
Maelstrom being random cards that you draw to play your game. I don't think this is Maelstrom, but it does seem like it has some craziness in it. And so I'm all for on day 1 GW being like, this is what tournament play looks like, because that's all we want to practice. Like, my friend group only wants to practice competitive play. That is all that we do. We've talked before about why casual play is not appealing to us, but that's what we're here for, right? We want to see the comp rolls. So missions, lots more to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Core rules and then armies and data sheets. Let's talk about core rules like we started to do. I think that they are incredibly well written, and I want to give GW a shout out for that. My ADHD is wildly out of control right now, so reading for fun is really hard. Like, I have to read paragraphs multiple times to really understand them, because my brain's just squirrel. But I read them and I got them. I read them twice and I felt like I could have played. Like, I read them twice and I thought that if Chuck was on the way, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna go play 40K and it's gonna be okay. Here's my my 6 data sheets that obviously I haven't seen, but here's my 6 data sheets for my Eldar army. I have the core rules. I know what my faction trait is. I know what the general stratagems in the game are. I probably could play 40K right now. And so I really appreciated that. And I think that fits in well with what you were saying, Chuck, which I hadn't thought about, is that the game is very similar. And because it's very similar, reading the rules is easy. Mm-hmm. Because there's you don't need, they haven't changed the way that you measure how units are moved, but they have to explain it in the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So
somebody's starting for the first time on their own. They need some info.
Yeah.
So it's got to be in there.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of big changes, but they often call them out in bullet points or pictures. Mm-hmm. Like, flying units move in true distance now. Again. Yeah. This is a back and forth situation in the game of 40K. But I on This Week in 40K, Chuck, I talked about the Necron play game I played against Dave Robson at Mox, where they had 8-inch tall terrain, and he just took his Doomsday Arcs against my Pterodon army that had no shooting and just parked on top of them. Yeah. And it's like, well, you can't charge me because your movement's not long enough, and you don't have guns, so let's play 40K. Yeah. Which should not have been possible because he would have had to go 8 inches up. Anywho, I'm really excited about that. But the rules in general are very well written. I don't think that they are concerning to me other than the close combat section. So just going through it quickly, not in the detail we did on This Weekend, this Thursday in 40K, I guess is what that show was. You start off with the command phase. You got a CP. Everything in the command phase happens in whatever order you want. So Swarmlord can make, I think not Swarmlord. Someone can make people have better objective control. Some people can turn off people's objective control. So there's a lot of shenanigans you can do in the command phase. It's like, hey, I score this at the end of the command phase, so I'm going to turn off your ability to hold this objective and then score. There's that stuff. And then after command, you do not go into psychic. It doesn't exist. You go straight into move. I guess you went to move before too. Sorry.
Then you do your battle shock tests.
Oh, that's
I
right.
think it's really interesting because you could hand out a lot of buffs to a unit that's under strength and then have them be like, oh, I'm battle shocked now. I suck.
Yeah. Yeah, because battle shock is basically, have you taken half of your casualties or half of your wounds if you're single model? They specified that.
Yep.
Which I do think means that vehicles can fail their battle shock.
Yep.
And then you let's say you can't hold an objective because your objective control goes to 0. Mm-hmm. No stratagems can be paid on you. Mm-hmm. There's something else. I can't remember what the other one is.
If you fall back from combat, it's a desperate breakout.
Yep.
I do feel like there's more, but I can't remember.
So I would think that despite what Psychic did, I think that this is the most different thing.
Yeah, Battle Shock is definitely different, and I actually think I love it. I want morale to have an impact, and I've always been wanting more of an impact, and what I didn't understand is I didn't want it to be more casualties. I wanted the unit to be different.
Right.
I think this is, even if this isn't the best execution, we'll see with time and experience. I love that this is something we're trying.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I think that the morale phase today is dumb. Mm-hmm. It massively hurts armies that are MSU with low leadership, like orcs. And I don't think that we need that. I think that the battle shock test mechanic seems great, and I also like that you don't just lose a ton of models, like you said. Yeah. I think it's going to be really interesting if armies that affect it are good. Because one of the things currently is, with some exceptions, but not very many, armies that modify leadership in 8th and 9th edition have not been good. Like, that's just not been the way to do it. There's a little bit of that with demons now, right? Like, there's a little bit of like, I'm going to lower your leadership so I can come in closer. But if I attack a unit, you're -1 to attrition tests. People don't even remember they have that rule right now, let alone it mattering very often.
Well, demons have the -1 and -1 to your combat attrition 6-inch aura. And if I work it against low leadership armies, I can get, maybe 10 extra casualties by the end of the game. But the thing is, if somebody has low leadership, they almost always are also numerous. So 10 casualties is no big deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The other big change, the other big change I saw there that I really liked is the stratagem. I don't know if you noticed the universal stratagem, Chuck, for Battle Shock, but it says you auto pass after the roll.
Yeah.
So you roll, you see that you failed, and then 1 CP auto passes it. And
is it still once a game?
I don't think it is.
That's really powerful then.
Yeah. I think the situation is that CP are a lot harder to get.
Yeah.
And so things like Overwatch are a much bigger decision than they were before. The thing about Battle Shock, though, is I don't want to fail one significant Battle Shock roll on my turn and have my game plan destroyed because of a die roll. And a lot of armies are built against one pivot unit, like a unit of 10 Terminators or something. And if that unit fails Battle Shock on a turn where it's holding the middle of the table, are you over? Is it done? So I like that you get to fix the problem, but after it's failed, because otherwise this whole, do I want to gamble? I don't like that. Do I want to spend 2 CP like today? Or do I want to roll and hope it goes well? I don't like that. I don't think that that's a good feeling or a good strategic decision today. Battle Shock.
Yeah. I also think it's really significant that there's several weapons that we've seen that hand out Battle Shock. The star of that in my mind is the Plague Burst Crawler, being able to hand out Battle Shock and shoot indirectly. If you playing a Death Guard army and they put a Plague Burst Crawler or 2 on the table, you just can no longer leave your dumb little unit in the back holding an objective. Like if I have 10 cultists, it would take them forever to shoot through those cultists with the Plague Burst Crawler. But now every time they have the chance to Battle Shock him.
And just not hold the objective anymore.
Right, yeah. Like I have to double cover it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's an impressive gun that is impressive not because of the casualties it does, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I also think that putting characters in units is going to change this,
Oh yeah,
which I think is really interesting. Like, is it actually that my chapter master is going to stand with a unit of intercessors on the home objective? Like,
right. And
is that actually what's happening? Right?
it could
I don't
be.
know.
Like, yeah.
I don't know. So then after Battle Shock, we have movement. There's subtle changes. Fly is measured differently. Yeah, there's stuff there, but it's mostly movement's mostly the same.
Mhm.
And then there's shooting, very very similar to what it is today.
I'm really happy that advanced no longer gives you -1 to hit.
Oh yeah,
If you
yeah,
advance and shoot, I think that's wonderful.
yeah. Assault weapons are a lot cooler now than they were
Yeah.
before. I also like the heavy change. Did you notice that? Like,
there are a few places where I don't like it because they just hit the ballistic skill of the guys, and then you have to get it back with heavy. But that really will. I have to see if there's enough -1 in the game for that to be horrible, or if it's just like it's totally fine. It doesn't matter.
yeah, I don't know. But I like the idea that they're better if they don't move rather than being worse if they do move. But like, it depends on the army. Like, I don't think Marine Devastators are going to have a worse ballistic skill.
Right.
So I think they're going to do the thing really well. So yeah, heavy weapons are different. Assault weapons, rapid fire is the same.
Mhm.
And then there's a whole bunch of names: savaging wounds and critical wounds and brutalizing wounds and
lethal wounds,
and
devastating
lethal wounds. Yeah, there's actually not that many, but it is confusing. It won't be confusing once we start playing, I don't think, because it's actually
I think I have a
sixes
hold
do
of it.
this is what the majority of it is. And then I think it's called precision, which is the sniper rifle rule.
Mhm.
So yeah, the big thing here is that because in deep strike rules, pregame movement rules, gun rules, everything, all the universal special rules are universal. It makes reading data sheets for this stuff so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this gun is blast. Well, I know what blast does.
I think.
Oh, this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Every gun I've read since like halfway through the article started coming out, I've read the line of like how far does it shoot, what's it hit on, how much damage does it do. I've read the line of numbers, and then I read it and I'm like, I start thinking about the gun and I go, oh wait, and then I go back over and look at the keywords and be like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
There's like another stage of the gun that I got to get used to like paying attention to.
I think it was in the Tau article where the hammerhead might just do 12 mortals.
Yeah.
it might just, it's shooting at you and you might just take 12 mortals. That might just be what happens. If you roll a 6 to wound, well, 12 mortals. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, I don't think shooting's significantly different. The wound stuff is cover's different.
Cover's different.
You no
AP
longer.
Is different.
What's that?
AP in general.
Yeah. Well, yes, you can't get a 2-up from cover. And everybody's like, well, what if you blah blah blah? And I say, no, you can't have a 2-up from cover. You can have a 2-up if your model has a 2-up. Yep. That's when you can have a 2-up. But what I noticed is your base has to be wholly within.
Mm-hmm.
And they specified that at the beginning of the game, you need to talk about where the base of each terrain is. Right. So, because like I have L's that we never know exactly how to do. Mm-hmm. Right. But wholly within means there's none of this BS where people are backed up to a wall with the back of their feet touching, their heels are touching the terrain.
I'm getting cover for it.
I'm
standing in front of the barn. You can't hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I'm in front of the barn that it's so effective.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
How'd he get there? What's he doing?
How did they walk through the wall? Yeah, I love that change. I think it's great. Let's see. Anything else about shooting that's different? I don't think so.
I think I want to touch on the AP thing. A lot of smaller arms fire and close combat weapons have lost a point of AP. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to really significantly improve the power armor space, where power armor is actually showing up more often, and even possibly taking people who have like 4-up saves and having us start to value those. Right now, if you have a 4-up armor save, you basically just don't have a save. Right. Is a weird place to be at. So I'm excited for that change. It's like part of what Armor of Contempt did, but not
Mhm.
entirely what Armor of Contempt did, which I think
Yeah.
is good.
I agree. The thing I'm worried about when it comes to guns in particular is it seems like default guns, bolters, bolt pistols, auto guns, las guns, are all much more trash than they were before. Like, I understand that AP's less and people don't have 2-ups, and that makes against infantry, that makes bolters better. But what they've done at the expense of that is they've made it so that there's a whole bunch of things in the game that bolters used to wound on 5s that they now wound on 6s. And wounding on 6s is not a thing. Like, I never want to go into a combat where I have to wound on 6s. Ever, 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 ever. It's not that oh, well, you'll get 1 in 6 and it'll be fine. You're not going to get 1 in 6. You're going to get 1 in 9, or you're going to get 1 in 4. Right? Like there's no way to predict what the actual spike will be. And as a result, shooting things that are going to win on 6s is a thing that I just don't do. So that means that, for an example, anyone who was T7 before is not T7 now and no longer cares about bolters, as an example.
I think very specifically, most of that stuff has moved to toughness 9, it looks like, from
Yeah.
the sampling we have. Yeah, and that won't matter. I do think things like the Oath of Moment for Space Marines are to help counter that to a degree, right? Like being able to have units that have lethal hits and then are full rerolling to hit a target or full reroll hit to wound brings those numbers back up into a more reasonable space.
Yeah.
But I actually I agree that that's the impact. I disagree that it's bad. I think it's.
Oh, hold on. I'm concerned about it. I don't
Okay.
necessarily think it's bad.
Okay, that's good. It's a good call out. I think it's interesting that guns are really keyed to a particular target. I'm concerned about that because one of the best ways to win Warhammer 40K since I started playing it last century was to bring a lot of one particular thing and try to overwhelm somebody's ability to handle it.
I don't have big things. Where are you
We'll
going to
see how
shoot
that
those big
works.
guns at?
Yep. Or I only have big things. All those little guns are dumb.
They did make blast more interesting. So at least if you have big units, at least if you're shooting into big units with your heavy weapons, at least you'll get more shots.
I think they made it more interesting, and they also like I've had lots of chaos lists who were 5 points short, and I did not buy an 11th cultist because 11th cultist is far more concerning to have around with 9th edition blast rules than it is to just like feel good about using all the points of my army.
Right.
In the new one, sure. Like even if it was taking me from 14 to 15 and making it +3 on blast, one extra hit is that one guy I brought. Right? I don't feel penalized for making my squads larger, so I think it's really pretty good.
Yeah, I agree completely. So yeah, that's guns. I think that as they preview guns, I think it's hilarious how useless I find the heavy weapon previews to be. They're doing one in like every thing. They're like, here's the gun on the hammerhead. Here's the gun on this knight. Here's the gun on the fire prism. And they're all so similar to each other. They're all strength 10 to 16 or whatever, 9 to 16.
20 apparently.
Or 20. They're all high AP, high strength, and they do, some of them do D6 plus 2, some do D3 plus 3, some do 3 plus D6. Like, they all do things, but because we're getting them one at a time with no greater picture, I just look at them. Like, I looked at the T-Fex and I'm like, hey, this T-Fex looks really cool. And then Tyler Bortel's like, yeah, that's worse than what it does now. Because it's like, because you're like reading the gun profiles and you're trying to understand what the game does now.
But it also does battle shock, so like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think that the wild variance in what guns do to things is going to be hard to get used to.
Well, I think particularly at that high level, all those big guns you just talked about, they're going to all about do the same thing, right? Like they might be keyed a little better to this kind of target to this one, but like they're all going to punch a hole in a vehicle. I think one of the reasons it's difficult to understand is like what the Armiger and the Rhino. Those are the only targets for those things we have to compare them to. As we get more and more, I guess we could do the Land Raider as well, right? But we have a very few number of data sheets that they want to shoot at, to look at and decide if something's better than something else.
Right. I agree.
when we get the whole game, that'll be a little easier to do. But I think honestly, you're just going to be like, my army has this one big gun. It's not like there's armies out there that are like, oh, I have 5 of these big guns. Which one should I bring today? Right? Like
Right.
this is the good gun your army does. So if you need one, this is the one you're taking.
Hopefully, make it simpler. I am excited to see vibro cannons, because vibro cannons in their history have always
They're
been
all
so
wacky.
weird. Yeah. In 7th edition they were weird, in 8th edition they were weird, and then in 9th edition they were weird. So I'm all in on vibro cannons and what sort of weird shenanigans. I'm also excited about what's the crazy, chaotic, strange orc gun?
The
Smash
shock
a
attack
gun? No, the actual artillery piece that
oh man, well,
Lucas
there's the
played with
smash gun,
9.
the bubble chuck.
Yeah.
Like
all that's crazy as well. So I'm excited to see what all that does as well. We haven't had an Orcs preview yet, have we?
All we've seen is the Weird Boy.
Oh.
And he looks delightful.
Okay.
Depending on because he teleports units around that he's joined.
Yeah.
So if he's joined a unit, that it depends on what unit he can join. If I can put him in with 10 Mega Knobs and I can bounce Mega Knobs around the table and shoot heavy flamers at people, I'm in.
I think that one of the interesting things is I don't think they've talked about that, about what unit people can actually go into. In the rules, they make reference to bodyguard units.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that means a unit has to have the bodyguard keyword for a character to be added to the unit. I don't know.
They gave a list of things that Space Marine units, I think the Space Marine Lieutenant, a list of units that he could join, but it wasn't the rules. They just said these units are the ones you can join. And there was no we don't know why he's able to join those ones and not other ones. Maybe it's on the backside of his data sheet. Maybe maybe there's a keyword they have to have. I will note that the armor save was the same for all the units he was joining, but that Space Marine's like, that's hard to hard not to do, right? So who knows? But I'm excited to think about it, because even if it's like, okay, well, you can't put him in Mega Knobs, but I can put him with 30 boys. Like, here we go.
I'm wondering if you could put a Terminator Librarian or Captain with a unit of 10 Terminators, because that one guy being so hard to get to is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Abaddon run around with his 10 Terminators.
Yeah, well,
anybody
Chaos Rules don't get as good of rules as Imperium. That's kind of just,
I don't know. We talk about it. The Chaos Space Marine rule. They showed us one of the big rules we're going to get. Being able to pick, do I want to have lethal hits or sustained hits? Firing my unit, and then of course, if I fail my battle shock test, I take some mortal wounds. But that's future problems. I get to pick 2 very powerful bonuses depending on the kind of target I'm shooting at. Right up front, I think is really exciting, and I like that it's similar to what demon weapons are in my mind, where I get this benefit, I get to do this cool thing, and then there might be some consequences afterwards. But why think ahead? Let's just do this and get to
it. Charge phase. Overwatch at the end.
Yeah.
Or it's at the end of movement?
It's the end of movement and charge, I thought.
Oh, yeah, you can do either one.
Yeah. Basically, at the end of one of the designated movement phases, if they're too close to you, you can open fire.
Yeah.
But not both. It very specifically says you can only use it once a turn.
Right. And it seems incredible, but remember, you are still hitting on 6s. And what we don't know is how common full rerolls to hit are. We haven't seen much of any. Have we seen that at all?
I think Space Marines against their Oath of Moment target.
Yes. Okay. We have. It's certainly not. Everybody has a character that hands it out like candy. No. That's certainly not what it is.
Chaos Space Marines, I think, is the next places where that's rerolls to wound for if they're standing on an objective.
Yeah.
So Abaddon can hand it out, and
Twin Linked is reroll to wound as well now. Rather than it was reroll to hits forever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're looking at here is, does it have torrent, and does you don't want to be running up to a unit of a unit that has all flamers.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
They will set you on fire.
And then the fight phase is super different. I think that people are trying too hard to find the problems, which is part of 40K. So go on, keep doing it. Tell me when you find them. But in general, there's a lot of good changes here. One of my favorites is that you only get to consolidate if you can end up touching a unit, or you can't touch a unit, but you can get someone to within range of an objective. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do those two things, you are not consolidating, which means that you are not. So like if you move block a knight army and all of their knights charge your unit, their knights aren't all getting free movement after that.
Yep. It's like the move block is so much more effective.
Yeah. I think that that's a great change. I like it a ton. Mm-hmm. The close combat player in me has been using close combat to get free movement for all of 8th and 9th edition, and it does not actually feel good to me.
Yeah. These changes were in my mind as I was playing Storm this last weekend.
Uh-huh.
And my first orc round, my first opponent was an orc player.
Uh-huh.
And he kept, like, he would charge in, he put some damage on a unit, and between being able to split the pink units and then being incredibly practiced at 9th edition shenanigans as far as piling and consolidate goes, there were several times where he like damaged a bit of a pink unit but didn't finish it, and then I placed them in such a way that I could then pile in and consolidate and like objective secure steal objectives off of him. And he mentioned during the game, like, you obviously understand another level of this that I do not get, but this is amazing to watch because he's destroying me. Like, my army is vanishing, but I'm stealing points every turn. And I think he was excited to see that, but I've had lots of opponents who just felt robbed, right? Like it's like a gotcha that's in the game that when you reach a certain skill level, you can do things that other people just can't see coming, and it does not feel good. So I think this tones that down a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I think it does. Basically, you have to be in base-to-base combat to fight someone, right? And then everybody else can be with... No. Sorry. I said this completely wrong. You have to be within a half-inch still to fight someone, but then everybody else has to be touching your base to also be in combat.
No, if somebody...
Other way around?
No, it's if you're within an inch, you can fight somebody.
Okay.
If you're in base-to-base, people who are in base-to-base with you can also fight.
Oh, okay.
So if you want multiple ranks, you have to be crammed in.
Okay. Well, good.
I didn't actually confirm that engagement range was still an inch, but I'm going to assume yes. But maybe that's wrong. Okay.
We talked about it in the Discord. People went and looked carefully. One of the things I was realizing as we talked here is that I didn't spend any time reading how unit cohesion works.
Oh, yeah. I just assumed it was the same.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's the same. Like, if you have 6 or more dudes, do they still have to triangle their ends? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, so that'll be a thing to go look at. So the fight phase is quite different. There are some nuanced rules, like your opponent can get things in the way of your unit, so that it has to charge the thing that like you can charge, and then somebody else can use the 6-inch heroic intervene thing and come into you and get in the way of being base, so that when you're moving your guys, you have to move towards the unit that's come in and not towards the unit you actually want to punch. So there's some tricksy things there that are going to be interesting. They also made fights first. Oh, you go ahead, Chuck. Were you trying to say something?
Okay. Oh, no, I was just really agreeing. Like, I think that I love that strat. There's like the lookout, sir, for whole units, right? Where you're just like, I'm going to jump in there and start to participate. Because it kind of goes both ways, right? If I put a unit of Gretchen next to a unit of Mega Knobs, you charge the Gretchen with something that's, cheap and easy to get rid of the Gretchen. The Mega Knobs step in there and they get the kill.
Right.
Vice versa, you send in something powerful in the Mega Knobs and suddenly the Gretchen run in and just gum up your plan and maybe save some of the Mega Knobs. Right. I think that's very interesting play. It's going to be real awkward until we get used to it.
Yep. But today there's a lot of, your unit can't heroic intervene, so I'm just going to stand 1.5 inches away from it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that today. And there's also a lot of, okay, I killed this unit in close combat. I'm going to pile in 2 inches because if I do 3, you'll get to punch me with the next unit. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of that shenanigans that I think goes away. And I like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So fight phase end, right?
Yeah. That's the end of the game. End of the turn. You're just done.
Yeah.
There's no morale.
Right. It's kind of great. So yeah, the core rules seem good. I agree with you, Chuck. I think it's going to play faster. I didn't see anything that I was like, whoa, you messed up here. Like, I didn't see anything that was like, I'm really concerned about how you wrote this. Like when they tried to make the change to how you fight through terrain. And we all saw it and we're like, no, you've done a really bad job here and you should feel bad. No, this is much better written than that.
Yeah. I did actually stop several times reading through the rules and thought, well, yeah, that's a clever way to handle it. Right? Like,
yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I have another half hour and then I have a little bit of a hard stop. So why don't we talk factions?
All
right. We don't need to go through all of them and what they said in their previews. So let's not do that. Let's do it this way. Of the ones you've seen, Chuck, what are you most excited to play and why?
I'm going to name 3. 2 are obvious, and the other one might be a little bit shocking, but we'll see. I'm definitely very excited for Orcs. I have very little information, right? Which is the weird boy, but that kind of play with Orcs has always been exciting to me. I want to be sort of non-linear with a linear army, so that got me excited. The Chaos Space Marine stuff is okay, and I'll give it a go. I really need the other half of the rule to start to get really excited for them. I did really like Abaddon, but I was very excited for the Chaos Demons. The idea of sort of stealing the objectives and then desecrating them, and then that being like my space, and now I have benefits that are significant in that space is really cool and feels very much like a demon incursion to me. So I was just like, the flavor is great, the rule is great. I'm excited to play the rule, and it seems strong. I got a lot of things are coming together there, and then you pile on the fact that Be'lakor has this aura of like, you can't long range shoot me, which just sort of guarantees that demons still have like long range shooting durability. I was like, this is great. I'm in. And then the third choice is actually just Space Marines. I think they've done like the rules seem really good. I really like the idea of having the ability to like select a unit and being like, we're going after that guy, get him.
Yeah, this turn,
and the whole army.
That guy is the mission.
Yeah, and I think that's really neat. It also, like we were talking about, like bolt guns aren't very good, but like suddenly maybe they're all right? Like
heavy bolters gain a lot of value.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. I think that's a space that's very interesting to look at. And it reminds me, one of the things we talk about, there's no core. It's like going back to the rulebook, talking about core rules. There's not core in this. It looks like most benefits benefit whoever's there, which I'm very excited to get back to. I think it's a little complicated the way it is right now, but
just if you have an aura, everybody gets the aura.
Yeah. So what I'm hoping is that the rest of the Chaos Space Marine stuff make me as excited for them as I am for Space Marine players. But I'm interested in the Space Marine thing. Like the stuff they have there, the abilities to like the fallback and the advanced charge, like doing those once a game each, all that stuff is very appealing.
Yeah, I agree. Colin, what are you excited about? Well, I am not excited about Marines, but that is only because I am tired of them having all the best things. I actually think that they have one of the by far best previews. Now, how do the rest of the rules look? We don't know. Are they overcosted? We don't we don't know anything.
Yeah, I agree. If we have to judge based on what we have right now, they're the winners.
Yeah,
but I think they were going to always preview them in that state. So I don't know.
Eldar is also gross. I'm pretty excited about Eldar. They did change fate dice, but they changed them in a way that will be significantly easier to play, and my opponent will have a much better understanding of what's happening.
Yeah,
and I think that those are really big changes. I don't care what the Fire Prism does. You're going to have to show me really low points for me to care about hard to hide, heavy shooting Eldar tanks. But in general, I liked what Guardians do. I liked what the Farseer does. I don't like that the Farseer doesn't have Doom anywhere that I can see. I don't care for that. He certainly is a lot less powerful than he was before. And I doubt there will be a guy who's shooting mortal wounds with the efficiency of the current Farseer.
Let's hope not. Certainly
Yeah.
not through a wall. That guy is offensive.
He can't shoot. He can't shoot his gun through a wall.
He could shoot the current one could shoot Executioner through the wall.
Well, sure, yeah,
That's offensive. Like, that is unacceptable.
yeah. And I remember we hadn't played it in a long time, and we looked it up in our game, and I'm like, oh right, and it's not closest either.
Yeah, like that's what?
The best direct damage spell in the game. Look at that.
Yeah. Zeech would like to come to do one of your classes. We'd like to learn from you.
Yeah.
That's not where any psychic power should be.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I've heard rumors of some other things that I'm not going to talk about because I don't know what rumors are true. But it sounds like bug players are going to be happy.
I would
Maybe.
assume they seem to be, whoever gets to fight the Marines in the base box set gets to have a good time to start with. Right?
They're going to get a lot of new models. Like I'm going to pre-order a box set. In fact, a friend said, I want only the Space Marines. Do you want another set of the Tyranids? And I thought, God, I don't know. Do I? Like, I'm going to try to get back in on NIDS. I took 9th edition off from them for the most part, other than I love the Demicharon list.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I didn't play their codex like at all. And I regret that. It was so powerful. I should have played it more. I do love my Tyranids, so I'll play them for sure. How many armies do you think you'll want to play on our launch weekend?
Well, you said want to play. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. How
realistically?
Many? Yeah.
2 or 3, I think, is probably.
Yeah.
At some point, I won't be able to cram it all in my head, and we're also learning so much about the game. Like, you have to tone it down a little. So I have to pick the ones I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Right.
I wondered if the first thing we should do is play. Like, I'm just going to play Craft Old LR today, but I'll change my list between each game.
Sure.
Like, I've thought about doing it that way. Like, well, Friday's Craft Old LR day, and Saturday is Drukhari day, and Sunday. I thought about doing it like that. But man, yeah, it's a lot. When 8th edition came out, I was very casual with the game. When 9th edition came out, they didn't index everything, so we had to test stuff. But we had all played. We had the amount of information that had been built in our minds about 40K was a giant, very intricate framework that we were inserting new information in. This is the new seasoning. What does it do to the flavor? This is, we've brought you a new food, and you've not had this food before. That was a terrible metaphor, but I really tried to land it.
It's true.
Yeah.
You got there.
Yeah. So, really, really interested in the factions in particular. I want all elves to be good because I love playing elves. I am okay if Dark Angels go back to the closet. They've spent most of their life on the back of the shelf. I think that's fine. I would like an edition where we don't talk about Iron Hands all the time. I think that's a reasonable request.
Well, I think you're going to get it because it won't be Iron Hands. There'll be a detachment of heavy Space Marine guns. So
it says Iron Hands on it.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not, in fact. Okay, let's see. What did we forget to talk about? Well, for factions, are there... I thought Sisters was kind of meh. I think that the Eldar have Miracle Dice, only better. Like, Miracle Dice and Fate Dice are the same thing, only Fate Dice seem better. That's a weird
if you
decision.
want to get them all up front and have more choices with them and generate them easier, I guess they're better. But
yeah, I guess, right? Hey, you can walk through stuff. That's actually...
Oh, yeah.
We didn't talk about that. That's actually my favorite change.
Yeah, the infantry and the vehicles can walk through the infantry. In all that discussion, though, I didn't notice anything about the mounted units. So I don't know.
Well, vehicles and monsters can't go through each other, and everything else can go through each other.
Okay, so the mounted guys can go through other things.
Well, I don't know if there are mounted guys. We haven't seen rules on that yet.
They talked about it. About having the mounted keyword, which looks like it's probably cavalry and bikes.
Okay.
Which I think is great because as a demon player, being forgotten that there's a cavalry keyword all the time is really frustrating.
Really dumb, yeah. I agree. Yeah. So very excited for the standard of living there, for the kind of the make this game more fun to play. Being able to put a rhino out on the table and know that my unit can still walk through it is a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pretty met on the sisters. Maybe I'm missing it. The triumph is certainly neat now if you can get through the Tolstoy amount of words on the card. I don't know who else really stood out as Tau seemed fine, a little bland. I thought.
I felt that with the Tau and with the Votan, they both felt like they were a little.
Oh yeah, the Votan felt super bland.
But I'm excited for that because I like the Votan line. I would like to continue to collect an army for them, but they made them so powerful that the points they put on them meant that they didn't even have like a real army.
Right.
And I would love a reset where like you bring a lot of Votan models. Like when I say a lot, I mean like I want to have 3 troop units and still have points for other things, right?
Right.
Like, but they were so difficult before. But I also really liked they both of those previews showed off an ability to move up in a transport, jump out, and lay down a lot of firepower, sort of Fisher Fury style. With the Tau one, they showed the strat where you could then, if you get charged, jump back in your transport, which I thought was
That's neat.
hilarious. And then
Yep.
the Votan one, the wagon shoots at the target first, and now the warriors who got out get better shooting. I think it's reroll wounds or something. So they
Yeah.
kind of come out in conjunction with each other and like lay a hammer down on a target. And I think that's very interesting because that army is naturally very slow, and so now you have something that reaches out and touches people in a good way. So I think there's some cool stuff there.
I agree. I think that's neat as well. I was just going to see what faction focuses we wanted to talk about that we might have missed. Where's the list? Here's the list. Marines, Tyranids, Chaos Space Marines. I thought Necrons was much ado about nothing. I think that this is a better way for Reanimation Protocol to work. Yeah. That's kind of all I got out of the Necron one. You?
Similar. I felt like the Necrons didn't give me a good idea what Necrons are going to be like.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was just like, okay, well, we'll see.
I think that one was a little bit of a miss as an article.
Yeah.
Guard was much less of a miss as an article. I really felt like I understood Guard.
Mm-hmm.
They made the guns way worse. So that's on the infantry. So that's important. But you can basically have these units of 20 Cadians and you can bring them back like Green Tide. And I got to do this for one day with Valhalla. And then they were like, no, that costs points. But because of the way they're talking about it, I don't think it's going to cost points.
I think you just, and in general, if you have a unit who's moved up and then gotten killed and sent all the way back to the backfield, like the game's 5 turns long.
There's a dog trying to come through my door.
They don't get to participate to a degree. So I think it's important that they don't end up costing points, because if you're paying the points again, it's like paying for the points, but they come in halfway through the game. And they still have to position. So it's an improvement. Colin heard none of that, but he'll definitely agree with me when he gets back. Oh, it's out, Dad. So that's why, and I do think Colin will agree with me completely.
Will I?
Yeah, there's some really good points.
Okay, I bet they were all smart.
Yeah.
This dog wanted to be in my lap, and I did not have a choice.
Yep. Nope. She's Commander of Darkness.
Can you go now? Yes, that's Abby Dawn. Okay. We call her Abby, though, because that's less weird. All right, so you were talking about Guard?
Yeah, I was saying that it's not good for... You have to pay the points again for the units like that, because they have to go all the way back to the beginning, and you have to take time repositioning them, and it's not actually a good choice. But having to pay CP, particularly when it looks like we're going to be very restricted, I think is enough.
I think so too. I think that that's a great way of handling it. I also think that the orders are good. And it looks like rather than having 3 sets of orders and some units can have different sets piled on each other, it looks like we have 1 set of orders. And it also looks like we maybe don't have area of effect splash orders. Splash orders.
What that reminds me of is how excited I am for the Mechanicum preview, and how
really?
I believe that I can understand what my Mechanicum opponent is doing now.
Oh, I do like that.
That sounds really interesting to me. It'd be fascinating. Like, I honestly, at some point, I'm just like, well, I trust this person now, I guess, because I don't
Yeah.
have another choice.
You're shooting me with 80 shots and they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and winning on 2s, rerolling 1s. Can you explain how that happened? Okay, I don't understand. Fine, let's shoot
Yeah.
my animal.
Can you create a PowerPoint presentation with a flow diagram for me?
Yeah, so I thought guard was cool. I love that they always show specifically the Baneblade, which is never the one that people actually play with, but it is the one they talk about the most. They're like, here's the Baneblade, and I'm like, that's not a Shadow Sword or a Bane Hammer or whatever. Okay, so we talked about Chaos Demons. We talked a little bit about Sisters. We're not really Sisters players. I mean, you have a Sisters army, but
what I hope for the Sisters is sort of like we talked about the Necrons. I feel like the article itself didn't get me hyped. I'm
right.
hoping that the army still does.
And I don't know that I got anything out of the World Eaters. One, because I just don't know that army well. Did you get anything out of that one? It's one of the few Chaos armies you don't have, right?
Yeah, I'm actually not very much of a fan of them. I think what I read was that the army will feel the same but do it differently. They're going to die on objectives for benefits. They're going to want to get into combat and kill, but they're going to have to show just like the tiniest bit of restraint while doing it. But who knows? Like, there's so much to.
Well, their army roll is wildly random, and I don't like that. It's how many doubles or triples do you get on your dice, right? And then you get to pick an ability based on that. Like, it's fine, whatever. We talked about Admech, we talked about Eldar, we talked about Death Guard a little bit. You talked about the Plague Burst Crawlers. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Death Guard? You do have that army.
I do have that army, and the Plague Burst Crawlers certainly got me excited. The rest of it, T6 Terminators do seem really cool. They're still very, very slow. So teleporting them in seems great, but there's only so much of that you can do, and you have to stuff on the ground. So, like, to me, points will make the difference on the Death Guard thing for me. Like, I look at it and I see pieces, but I'm also just really tentative.
And also, the Nurgle's Gift army roll is basically what they have now, only less interesting.
Yeah. The article is kind of a nerf, so we need to see what makes it not a nerf.
Here's how we made them more bland.
Yeah.
And I didn't get anything out of Knights. They're big robots. They shoot you. They have rerolls. That's what I got out of the Knights.
I spent the most of the time looking at the armature profile and trying to understand what the big guns in the game do. That's what I hear from it.
What was so T10, 3 up, 12 wounds. So today they have 12 wounds, or do they have 11?
They have 12. They often have 13 or 14 from the bonus wounds from the house, which they want.
So the only real change here is they've gone from T7 to T10. And they count for 8 models when they're standing on an objective, which is...
But not OBSEC anymore, unless something happens. But I don't think there's going to be OBSEC.
I don't think there is either.
So.
And then they get to shoot... this is the Warglaive armature. This isn't the...
We did not talk about shooting monsters and vehicles from outside of combat.
Okay.
I think that's very interesting. I have no idea what the impact will be. But certainly not being able to, like, charge your large creature into chaff that doesn't want to fall back or can't for some reason, and not being targetable is certainly a change. Also, everybody being like guard and being able to shoot out of combat, so you can't really, like, tagging is really just -1 to hit. Still important, but it's a step down for sure.
Yeah, and I think that when we're talking about how that's going to work, it's part of my overall concern that Be'lakor might be tissue paper. I think that there's a number of these large monsters before had stacking defensive things happening. -1 to be wounded, -1 to be hit, no rerolls to hit, no rerolls to wound, 3 up, 4 up. Like, people had all that, and now Be'lakor is just like, you can't shoot me outside of 12, and I have a 4 up invuln.
outside of 18.
Oh, okay.
And he is -1 to hit. He does have stealth. Um, but yeah, I think the thing he got most of is he's not towering, so he can hide from guns too. But he's such a big guy with such big wings. I don't know how realistic that will end up being. But I think he's going to be a delivery piece to get the army within range, and then he's going to go in and do something, and then he's just going to get blown up.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that as a story for him. Like,
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, that's some good talk about 10th edition.
yeah.
What, if any, hobby are you going to do in preparation? Just the
Well,
Obliterators or anything else?
I'll probably do something after I do the Obliterators. I specifically wanted to make sure I had 9 primed and perfect looking Obliterators for our first game. After that, I think I'll probably just go back out into the closet of Chaos Space Marines and pull more guys and just paint stuff probably that I've already built or whatnot. And because it's hard to predict what's going to happen.
Should I play guard for this game? What's the most authentic game for us to play against these Obliterators? It'd be guard, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
You should bring a Shadow Sword.
I should bring a Shadow Sword that I'll carefully measure 24 inches from every turn.
Yeah.
Or 29 inches.
You don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe I have longer range guns.
On the Obliterators. Maybe you do.
With the I forget what it's called, the ability to tell it to deep strike in on your turn. Better watch out, because then they could move their very small amount of movement forward and really get into you there.
I want them to move like 3.
I think it's probably 4 or 5, but it always hurts.
I want to do hobby because I have free time right now, and I'd like to get more stuff painted. And because I don't know what I want to play with, I have no motivation.
Yeah. The excitement of, oh, I'm really excited to play with this unit, or the pressure of, I have to go to a tournament and have to be fully painted by this time, makes it so you don't often have to worry about motivating yourself to paint. That's why these Obliterators have been here for a while, right? There's no pressure or excitement pushing me. It's just like every once in a while I put a color on, right?
Yeah, I think that if I had any idea of something to work on, I would be really enjoying working on it right now. But I don't want to hobby up some 20-hour project only to be like, oh, this is the worst unit in the book.
Yeah.
Or
I'll put this on the shelf for the next.
Or I really don't like how X army plays, and I'm not going to play it. Right? Like you own more than I do, but I have Tyranids and GSC, and then I have Eldar and Drukhari and Harlequins, and then I have a lot of Imperium, right? I have Space Marines. I could do almost any faction I want. I have Guard. So I have all these things to choose from. If a thing isn't good or I don't like it, it's just gone. I can't play everything.
Yeah.
And when I say it's just gone, I just mean out of my brain, other than other people asking me about it, because you just can't play everything. And I don't want to hobby up Drukhari and then have Drukhari be like, actually, we were good for a really long time and we're still in the penalty box. It's a power play for the rest of our opponents.
Yeah, we should. Yeah. We got Drukhari coming up preview wise pretty soon, I would think. Drukhari.
Well, Chaos Knights is tomorrow.
Orcs, Chaos Knights. Like we're getting towards
Harlequins, the end of it. Drukhari. Lots more Space Marines.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. You don't think they're going to be different, huh?
I don't think the basic box is going to be different. Like all the White Scars and Iron Hands and stuff, I think they're all going to be just, here's some Space Marines. I'm curious to see if the Dark Angels, the Space Wolves, and the Blood Angels get their own thing to start, or if they'll be put in that same space of like, you're a Space Marine chapter.
See, I think it's the detachment rules. Mm-hmm. So they say that like this is the army rule that all Drukhari or whoever gets, and then you pick a detachment rule, and today there's only going to be one, but they're going to add more in the codex. But they could just do one of those for each of the Space Marine chapters.
Right.
I'm curious if they will. One, here's the Dark Angel one. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Or they might just be, because they can say like, okay, here's the units that are Blood Angels, right? It's all their independent characters and their special Predator tanks. And like, if you're playing Blood Angels, you can only have the Blood Angel keyword, and it's like Stratus, and you're done. But you still have to use the one existing detachment, or will they put out detachments, or even possibly other special rules that aren't Oath of Moment for those guys or not. Like that's an open question.
Yeah.
But I think once we see any one of those three get that, we can kind of assume they will all three get it.
Yeah, my view is that they all are going to have Oath of Moment, and then after that, they'll all be different.
Definitely detachment. Yeah, I think that's probably correct as a level of complexity that from what they're showing. But who knows which way it's going to go?
Yeah, certainly not us. Let's see, who else is not out there yet? Custodes.
No,
We
yeah.
haven't seen Custodes yet. We haven't seen Inquisition. Mitch would point out if he was here. Grey Knights. Like some of the Marines are literally just different.
Yeah.
Thousand Sons.
Yes. Zach and I have spent a lot of time discussing what we think could happen to Thousand Sons because the change in psychic powers, I think, hits them more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, do I have to have a character attached to each one of my units to get a cool power, or do my units still cast powers? And so do rubrics just have warp time? I'm in. But if they don't have it, like, what does it look like? And their other army rule is that they've always had really high AP on all their guns. And with the APs going down, does it go down or does it stay where it is? And that's very spicy. Like, there's a lot to.
Yeah, I guess that is one of the more interesting armies to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
We could have made a list, but this is kind of fun trying to figure out if we know. Yeah. I don't think we're forgetting anyone too significant.
There's sure more. We're forgetting one army, and somebody's just like yelling at us, like, no.
Yeah, well, there's more Chaos and Imperium subfactions that we're not remembering. Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm really interested in the Genestealer Cult one. I think that they're a really hard army to write. I think they're one of the most hard armies to write. I think that the only way that they function is by jank, and I think that jank is really hard to balance. Yeah. So that'll be really interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I think I'm good. I went through the list here, and it looks like we have covered our hopes and dreams for all of the factions. And then who knows? Maybe a year from now, we get a whole new faction.
Yeah. Another Imperium one.
Yeah, that's what we need.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to Biff Pod episode. Oh, I didn't put the episode number on it. 175. That's not what it is.
I hope it ends with like as a 10. It would be great if we could like line that up. But this is what our pre-10th edition episode.
Oh, I'm sure we'll do another.
Just getting prepped. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just the hype train. That's all this is. Woo!
Yeah. Well, as we get to the next one, hopefully we have enough to like be even hyper.
Yes, I suspect I'll be even more excited the next time we talk, which should be 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Unless that's the funeral. I think that's on Saturday, right?
Yeah, we'll have to move it.
The funeral? That seems like a lot of work.
I think we should just move the recording date.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks everybody for joining Chuck and I as we bantered about 10th edition. Please remember that This Week in 40K is Tuesday. Each week we are talking more and more about 10th and less about covering 9th edition tournaments. We cover everything that got announced from 10th over the last week. Then next Thursday will be the best overall show. If you want to hear about sportsmanship and hobby mixed with your generalship, that's the place to go. Noah Badome and Joe Bomarito, incredible humans, incredible painters. Really, really good show that we're excited about. And of course, the TNG guys are going strong with the Top Watch show on the network.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're still going to the team tournament, so they'll probably have some coverage of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we were going to compete with them.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that's funny about not going to the team tournament is that I did have hobby and work I had to do to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I've not been playing 9th edition the past few months because of family stuff. And so, like, I know what Genestealer Cult does, but if I were to play Tyler Bortel right now, he would wreck me. Like, I would have to have practiced whatever army I was going to take, and I'd have to have played it into a few of the more chaotic matchups. Mm-hmm. And the Eldar I wanted to take involved hobby. So I'm there's also a part of me that's just like, okay, let's just get ready for 10th.
Yeah.
All right.
You asked about what hobby I was going to work on. I totally forgot one piece. I'm also be building a shelf. My collection has now reached a point where it's spilling off of what I have. So we need more shelves.
Okay. Fair. That's hobby. Yep. That counts. I am going to clean the external garage.
Oh, man.
Where all the Warhammer stuff lives.
Yeah.
Because I have Warhammer stuff all over my property right now, and that's not the way to do it. So thank you everyone for coming and for joining us, especially the people that joined us live, even though they were a very quiet crowd today. I think this Sunday morning, everybody's tired. Thank you everyone. Thanks for supporting the network. Come find us, like and subscribe, all the stuff. We'll be back in a couple weeks. He's Chuck. I'm Colin because someone has to be, and we'll be back soon. Bye, everybody.
See you later.